Hey, welcome to the Happiness Leap, a podcast where we speak to people who live life knowing that whatever happens to them, they will always have a smile on their face. And through these chats, we unearth the small mental leaps we take when faced with mountains in front of them. So, welcome to the Happiness Leap podcast. It's a podcast where we've invited people who've gone through shit in their lives, but who've not given up and who come up on the other side and have actually created something for themselves and for society at large, right? So we speak to them to uncover the kinds of tips and tricks that they've used, the messaging that they've given themselves, so that they've come out of their low phases, right, and have made something for themselves. So we kind of chat with people like you and others, and we try to get the meat of positive living out of you, right? So on this episode, we've got Soumita Basu. I've got your name correct this time. It's not Soumita. Yeah, she's the founder of Zyenika Fashions, and I'm gonna hand it over to her. If you can tell us a bit about yourself, you can start with your schooling and with your childhood. I'm always eager to know those things first.
Hi, thanks a lot for getting me on this podcast. And I just marvel at both our perseverance because I think we have had a lot of universal obstacles to it. But yeah, lovely talking to you about this. And I'm just glad that you find that there is something positive in my life. And I'm always happy to share whatever I can. My schooling, so yeah, I was born and brought up in Kolkata. So I did my schooling and my graduation in Kolkata. It was in sociology. And then I moved out and I lived in around 8 to 9 cities across the country. Then I went for my second master's abroad. And then I came back and I got back and I live with my family in Kolkata for the last few years. Um, I kind of had, my mom used to say, pav mein chakke lage hue hai. So wheels on my foot kind of a thing. But what happened was I kind of fell sick and I lost my mobility to a point where there was 3 year where I was like totally pinned to bed. Only my fingers were moving and my eyes were moving. Everything jaw down was just stuck. So that's one of the reasons. There was a shift from being living in multiple cities to being in one place at one time. And I wouldn't say regret it at all, but of course, it's a shift for my own self. It was a shift of perspective because I wanted to continue being the vagabond or the wheel with the foot wheel kind of a thing. So when I started my career, I started as a journalist. So I did sociology, then I moved on to Asian College in Chennai. I studied journalism. From my college days itself, so from Calcutta itself, I used to freelance for all the major newspapers. And then I took up journalism full time. I thought it was like the most obvious thing for me to do. But then I wasn't very happy with it. So anybody who looks at my CV right now, they were like, "Did you even have an end goal in life?" And I don't think I did. So I like discovering things. So I kept discovering and honestly speaking, I was at a time when the internet was just about coming in, right? So getting all the information, there's so many new types of careers which you cannot really have access to or understanding of. So I was just very open to doing new things, whatever I thought was exciting for me. For me, there were just two things that was important. One, I was learning, and B, I was contributing to something, like even if it's just like one small thing. So that's how I moved into the development sector. I moved more towards public policy. I did a lot of communications related work within the development sector. I moved into sector for a very different reason. I was like, okay, I want to do journalism, but development journalism. And so I was like, okay, so I should learn about the sector. So work in the sector, figure it out, and then come back and write. I just never came back. I That's what happened. And I then yeah, few things happened which we can go into in details later. But over time, with the health having taking a different look. Life changed quite a bit, and then I started my own company, and now I'm working on what is inclusive fashion. So basically, we make, I would say, extremely nice, fashionable, elegant clothes, and they are for people who just like to, be themselves. Wear clothes where they don't feel like the pressure of fitting in into a certain manner of speaking, and hence it also, extends to the elderly people, the people with disabilities, people who are into long-term patient care, because the clothes are meant to fit you. You're not meant to fit the clothes, right? So
Hmm.
with just that one sentence, you kind of break a lot of stereotypes that are there and
True.
design patterns that are there. We had to redesign almost every possible thing.
Yeah, you realize what you just did? You just summed up almost 3 decades of your life in about 5 minutes.
4 decades.
Like so concise. You're like the intro section in the newspaper, right? Just the first 3 4 lines and the details come later.
That's how I used to go. I mean, it is quite long. Yeah, it should have been 2 minutes. For
It was
40
fine.
years, 2 minutes.
So cool. So tell me something. You were in journalism, which meant a lot of like running around the place, like high pressure and meeting so many people. And then suddenly life changes when this thing hits you. How do you want to tell me about like that phase and like what actually happened and all that?
So more than journalism, while I was in the development sector itself, that was even more. And like I was traveling 25 days a month. I
Oh,
was, and at that time I thought it was fun. But when I look back, it was probably a little abusive for my physical body. Nobody forced it on me. I loved it. I wanted to do it. So, but it's just that writing to go with the flow kind of thing. And I was living for weeks, sometimes, in very, very remote villages, sometimes without electricity, without access to proper water. And maybe the very next week, I am probably in Delhi with the ministries and or the some corporate headquarters, right? So, I enjoy, and a lot of people used to say, "How do you live in the villages for so long? And there's nothing to do. It's not entertaining." I'm like, "What do you do in the cities? Yeah, it's not entertaining. Equally not entertaining. At least it's fresh air and I'm breathing and all of that." But what I realized, so then what happened when it was all literally a bit of a one fine morning kind of a thing. I wake up and I find that there's pain on my foot. And I was at that point in Bangalore, working in Bangalore, and we went to all the doctors, and the doctors kept saying, "Oh, this is probably because you have a slip disc." And I kept saying, "But the pain feels different. It doesn't feel like the same pain." And doctors being doctors, they're like, "Yeah, what do you know?" And me being me, I was like, "What do you know? It's my body." So that kind of went on for a while till we found a doctor who actually said, "Yeah, it doesn't look like that. It looks like something else." I said, "There you go. Finally, somebody who's," because even the ones who said that it was something different from what I was experiencing, they were not helping the situation. Had they helped the situation, I'm flexible enough to say, "Yeah, okay, you're right." But they were not helping the situation. They kept saying, "There's some other problem." I kept saying there's some other problem. And then what happened over the next, I then got a chance with the 100% scholarship to go and do my second master's. And I was around 29, 30 at that time. And I was like, "Yeah, if not now, when do I do this, right?" And it wasn't particularly easy to get this kind of a scholarship, so I was a little careful. I kept asking people, and everybody kept telling me, so this is funny, everybody kept telling me, "You're going to what is known as the first world, and there's great healthcare, so what are you worried about?" And at the same time, I also had gotten the Prime Minister's Rural Development Fellowship, which meant I would be working directly with the districts to develop, projects which would have been a dream job also. So I was like stuck with two very good options, and I was trying to figure out, I was spoiled for choice. And they said, if you go to a district, you will not get a doctor, and you go to this place, you'll always get a doctor. So I was like, yeah, but a district is always close enough to a city in India. And in my head, so for me, the logic was something that nobody believed, but it came true. In foreign countries, particularly where I was going to the Netherlands, they look at very few patients per day, which is very good for various other reasons. But it doesn't, I mean, and look at people here, they're looking at like at least 20, 30 times the number of patients per day. I was like, medicine is practice. It is even called practice, right? Like they're getting so much more practice here. So my logic was, I just feel like, and I wasn't diagnosed for 3 years. So I had all this pain, but nobody was able to diagnose me. By the way, I got diagnosed when I got back to India. Stayed there for 2 years. I got back here and then I got diagnosed. So, but in that 3 years when I was not diagnosed, and actually even a little bit after that, because we were not sure what medicine to put me on, I was reacting poorly to everything almost. Every morning I would wake up and I would find one more body part that's not working. So I very clearly remember this one evening where after I had cooked my dinner and everything, and I put all my salt and the peppers back on the rack. And the next day morning, I wake up and I'm not feeling that great. But anyway, I go to the kitchen. I just want to make myself something. I just can't reach the salt and the pepper anymore. And I think that was one of the most frustrating highlights of my journey because, like, I just did it last night, and it was me who put it. But yeah, by the time it was evening, I figured how to rearrange the racks and put it all back. So uh, I think for me, it has always been a matter of okay, fine, this is not there, this is gone. But what do I have now? And how do I work with that? So, no crying over spilt milk, as they say. It's done, it's done. So, now what do you have? How do you work with it? How to move on? So, even when I was totally stuck in bed, like I was telling you, it was so bad that I couldn't even turn in my own bed. Like, if I'm straight, I'm straight. I cannot take sides. I had to call somebody if I needed to, and the other person will roll me over, sort of a thing. And again, if I had to turn back to being straight, I had to call, and the person would turn me back. So I was like completely dependent, right? There were times when I was really thirsty, and the water is right in front of me, but I can't go and drink it. And I used to have all kinds of sort of a guilt, or I don't know what it was, but like I wanted my parents to sleep through the night. So I was like, okay, I'll just drink the water next day morning. That's not going to hurt me. So but then again, these are decisions I took. Nobody forced me. Nobody said don't call. And I think that what was very helpful. I knew that I have the option to call someone to drink the water. I exercised my choice to not do it because I chose something over the drinking water, even if that meant being thirsty for 6, 7 hours. It didn't matter. And I think that kind of is what helped me move on. I always found that no matter how difficult things are, you always have a choice. So for me, it was always about, knowing that it may not be the best of choices, but you always have a choice. And I think that's where the power lies. My power is in knowing that I have a choice and this is what I'm going to do. What happens to me or what kind of things I get is all absolutely not in my hands. Actually, I will not even say almost, like 100% not in my hands. If it's raining, it's raining. What can I do? If somebody's abusing me, somebody's abusing me. What can I do? uh, but how I react to what is happening, if it's raining, am I carrying an umbrella or a raincoat or just going out just like that? That is my that's in my power, that's in my control. So I just 100% zoom on that. Like, this is where my power lies. I'm going to exercise 100% of it. There I don't listen to anyone or anything.
But what I wanted to check with you was, did this like this Zen kind of mentality, or this this very self-conscious mentality that you started looking at the positive, like this is what it is and this is what I'm going to do with it now. Did it happen? Were you always like this, or did it kind of like grow slowly over time?
uh no, I actually used to get a lot affected by other people's opinions and what would happen. I was never anxious. I was never an anxious person. I would always take a problem head on. And for me, it was like focus on the problem only as much as is required to find a solution. Don't live in the problem. So that was there. But actually, what happened was okay. So when I was in the Netherlands again, one of the doctors he said, "Look, I have no idea what's wrong with you, but all your blood markers are like we don't even know how to explain this. So you're going to die." I was like, that's like the most obvious thing anybody has ever said to me, right? Like, you're going to die. He doesn't tell me when, he doesn't tell me how. So I was like, but if you don't know why I'm having a problem, why?
Stop you. The way you're talking about it is like it's been so normal now. Like I can imagine a doctor coming and telling me, "I don't know what's wrong with you. You're going to die." Matlab, like what the fuck, dude? Like, that's your job. At least give me some indication, no?
Yeah, I mean, at that point for me, it just sounded very illogical. So again, I'm a very logic driven person. Even if the logic is of my heart, there is that, right? You cannot just tell me something and get away with it. So he said, I'm going to die. I said, why do you think so? He didn't know why he thought so, except for my blood markers going haywire. So, I mean, come to think of it, he did make sense. He's like, if I don't even know what's wrong with you and everything in terms of the general indicators are going bad, I can't stop what's coming. So, obviously, you're going to die. But in my head, it's like, he doesn't know what's wrong with me. So, he doesn't know what route this is going to take. So, I guess I was always a optimistic person, if that's something one can say. Right? So, but what happened is once they left, and this was like the emergency services in my room, some one doctor, three paramedics, and then two something else, and all kinds of like my room suddenly turned into a very medical space for I don't know 2 hours or something. And then she wrote this one doctor who wrote this very strong letter saying that in case she falls sick and she should be straight taken to the emergency and no questions asked at the emergency, like immediately admit her and whatever needs to be done. So they left, and then I was all alone, right? And then I was sipping into my tea. And then I thought, okay, I should go to sleep. So when I was doing that, it suddenly struck me that, dude, if I die right now, this is a very cold country. And I think at that time it was probably November, December. I can't exactly recall. Could have been even October, whatever. It was like, it was a cold time in a cold country. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to die in a cold place. I mean, that was my first reaction to this entire situation. And also, I had my parents and my sister, my family, everybody was back here. I was like, it would be not nice if I don't meet them. And then for some reason, the whole thing sort of, started unfolding. I was like, okay, why the hell am I so keen and, working my day out for like, master's, after that PhD, after that this job, after that position, this country, this thing, that city. If today is the last day of my life, what is it that I want? And somehow that question was very relaxing. Like what I really wanted was to, have some fun, eat some good food, stay with, spend some time with family, some good friends. I felt really bad for, the times when maybe I got a call and I didn't receive it from a good friend. And you know how it happens, like, okay, I'll call the person later, and that later never happens. So I started feeling bad for those things. I had zero regret for any of the career related issues. So I was like, okay, so this is good. So now I know that if this happens again, if I'm not dying in the next few days, I have a lot of time to figure out then how I want to be. So I think that was a very crucial time, night, evening.
Like you say, it's freaking when you said like, okay, I'm gonna die. So what more can I do? Like the career doesn't matter, the people in my life matter. That's a goosebumpy thing, yeah. But you want to talk about a bit about what actually happened to you, like the arthritis that affected you. I remember reading it affected almost 80% of your body, and you didn't have movement in 80% of your body. Like that's, I mean, I can't even imagine losing like a finger. You know, if I can't move a finger, I would panic. Like 80% of my body not being in my control is, it's not just scary. It's like I don't even think of it. You know, it's not a situation which probably, like, I've dreamt about, what would happen if I'm caught in a tsunami or there's a storm, those weird stupid things, aliens come, but never have I ever thought of if I lose control. I mean, if I lose sensation in 80% of my body. So,
I
like,
didn't lose sensation. I lost mobility actually in 100% of my
mobility,
body.
sorry, my mistake, mobility. Yeah.
Huh. And it was 100%. I just kept saying 80% because 100% felt too bad.
Yeah, and
Medically,
80% is not bad.
between
That's a different rule.
between 80 and 100. So for me, and also like I said, my fingers were moving. So I was like, that's not the right way to. So medically speaking, it was 100% for at least 3 years. And now I'm better. And the fact that I'm better is also a medical miracle because the doctors didn't think I will get better. So I just kept doing yoga, I kept doing meditation, and I kept doing something called pranic healing, and I got better. And my doctor said, I have no idea what you're doing, but please continue. Because they kept saying, oh, you can't do this. So from a time when I was totally in bed, and I told you I needed help to even turn to my bed, for I think 6, 7 months of those, I had to be, my jaw had to be forced open to put food in it. From that, last year, I climbed 2 whole floors without support. I was just, because there was a meditation going on, the lift conked off, and I was like, "Karke dekhte hain, okay." If I can't, I can't, right? So I think that's the other thing that has helped me in this journey, and this is still my mantra. It's like I'm going to give my 100%, whatever that 100% is for that particular day. My 100% when I have a 102 fever versus my 100% when I don't have, like a 102 fever, it's not going to be the same. So I'm not going to be stupid enough to expect the same thing every day. But that day, if I can honestly tell myself that I've given my 100%, that's it. The rest is not in my hands.
Maybe you want to add like laughing constantly as one of the things that also helped you. Like, apart from yoga and meditation and pranic healing and all, like always laughing at whatever the doctor says or whatever life says.
It was not even a conscious choice. Me and also my sister to a large extent. But I think when it comes to me, it's more me than her because she also has that emotional reaction sometimes. We call it zoom it from space. So very often we just look at each other and we say zoom in from space. Nobody knows what we mean. Basically, if you just zoom out and you look on at it, sometimes it's just ridiculously funny what is happening. And you don't even have to, put your laughing hats on. It is literally funny when you look down and you see the chaos and the way people are reacting. You're like, my God, this is really funny, yeah. Like I have had people come to my room. I mean, first they were visiting my house, then they decide to come to my room, and they decide to tell me things like, "Oh my God, now what will happen to you? You have not been married. तुम्हारे कर्म ही खराब है." And I'm like zoom in from space. Like imagine a girl lying down, completely, completely like immobile. She is unable to walk out of this conversation because physically she can't walk out, right? And then this other person who's completely mobile suddenly decides to come in and have more emotions than the person who's sick has, and talks about things nobody is even thinking about, talking about marriage nobody is thinking about, and not that she's going to get married to me or anything like that. Talking about karma that nobody is thinking about. So if you suddenly take yourself out of it and look down, it is actually funny.
Did anyone else besides you and your sister do this?
No,
Zoom
it
in
is
from
actually
space?
the first time I'm revealing it. It's our secret. When I hope she will not hate me. What is our secret? This is just zooming from space. Look at this in front of you. And honestly speaking, there have been times when I've been extremely sick. My parents and my sister had to like beg and plead the doctor to please do a home visit, please do a home visit because we cannot move her. We have to probably get an ambulance or something. And the doctor comes, and for whatever reason, the doctor looks at me and says, okay, where is the patient? Like he's asking me where is the patient, and I am the patient. And then, if I'm covered till here, the doctor's like, you don't look like a patient. I said, okay, let me open my, the chadar that I have. And he's like, oh yeah, your hands are actually very deformed. Okay, fine, you are the patient. But from my face, very often people just didn't know that I have any kind of sickness or illness. Even, I mean, I didn't mean to fool the doctors, but I was told that can you please look a little bit more sick, otherwise people think we are just lying about this whole thing.
You want to tell, like, you want to explain what actually happened to you? Like, what's the scientific, what's the medical term, and what happened? Like, in a very medical kind of a.
So it's an autoimmune disorder. That's the one thing which is for certain. Okay, so in an autoimmune disorder, what happens is your immunity is confused between outside cells, which it has to fight and keep your body healthy, and inside cells, which is should be there and it shouldn't fight it. So my body has started fighting my inside cells, thinking it's just gone kaput. And in terms of the actual definition of the thing within autoimmune, there's still a lot of question like, does she really have this or does she have that? And I have reached a point where I'm telling my doctors, doesn't matter if I have this or that, will you change the way you're treating me? And they say no. I said, then why are you bothered? This is not a scientific experiment. This is not a scientific experiment, right? Your action will not change with the information. Then why are you running around the information so much? So, but largely the consensus is it's psoriatic arthritis. Largely, we'll go with that.
And this realization that happened to the doctors happened after how many years of trial and error, and no,
3
it's
years.
not this, it's not that.
3 years. 3 years it took them to figure out. It's around 2 years they took to figure out this autoimmune disorder. Around the same time, they started saying psoriatic arthritis. The thing is, psoriasis is a problem of the skin. And I remember one of
Hmm.
my professors, when she heard, she said, you have a glowing skin. So I think that confused the doctors further. Okay. So I have a perfectly good skin, but I have this arthritic condition. The blood markers and other conditions were not proving positive. So yeah, I mean, I kind of confused them, which is okay once in a while.
It's okay to confuse doctors, yeah. They
Yeah,
confuse you with
yeah.
medical terms. You can, I think you have the right to like confuse them. It's fine.
हाँ मुझे भी वही लगता है कि it's okay. I mean, if I'm at least adding some excitement to your life.
So, is when did the idea of you wanting to do something for others, who were going through some difficulty, or some illness, and they couldn't probably help themselves and they needed help from someone else? Like, when did this kind of thought come to you? But when you were going through it, like when you were being diagnosed, when you were at the absolute lowest, or once you start getting better? Like, at what phase?
No, I
I'm
started.
understanding, like, at what mental state were you in where you started thinking like, damn, this has affected me, I need to help someone else also? Matlab,
No, I
when you're
started
going
my
down, when you're
company
down,
from
or when you're
there.
like going up?
Yeah, yeah. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं था. So, okay, I'll tell you a few phases of the mind because you're talking about, how it was affecting my mind, right? There were a few things that happened. One is that I just wrote a very simple Facebook post, which had nothing to do with anything about helping anybody. It was just a very simple thing about my illness and some of the experiences. And a Facebook, okay, I don't write really long Facebook posts. It was like a decently long one. And I'm not a very active social media person. At least at that time, I was even less active. Now, because of my work, I do get onto it a little bit more. So, for somebody who was not so active, suddenly, there was so many people commenting and liking, and there were DMs coming in saying that, just reading about this has given us hope, has suddenly made us feel, connected and stuff like that. Then there was a second part which happened, which is everybody kept saying that my illness is everybody meaning the medical community kept saying even today they will say it's incurable. So in my head it was like, hold on, the problem is inside my body. So maybe it is curable separate the word incurable. So it is curable, but it's incurable. It's So there is an answer. It's just that the doctors may not know the answer. And I was put on almost a cocktail of painkillers. Nothing helped. And the pain was so high that only when the physiotherapists were doing, some kind of electro therapy kind of a thing. And I was taking electricity, which was some 20, 30 times more than regular pain people. And he was like, how are you taking? So basically, the more pain you have, the more electricity you can take in your body. And he's like, are you in that much pain? I'm like, did I not just tell you that I'm in pain? He said, yeah, but you're saying it with a smile. I was like, forgive the smile. So, so what happened was I realized that one day I just started breathing in a very systematic way. It's just deep breathing, nothing else. Okay, just concentrated deep breathing. I was not thinking about anything else but my breath. And the pain started going away. Something which tons and tons of medicine couldn't help. So I was like, hey, this is a wonderful thing. Yeah, I can breathe anytime I want. I mean, anyways, I'm breathing. It's just a matter of doing it properly. There's no dose to it. I will never run out of it. Right? This is that. So I stopped having all my painkillers. Anyway, I was trying to tell the doctors that there's no point in having them. So why am I having them? But after I discovered this, I was like, this is great. And then I thought, okay, this is never going to hurt anyone. So I just started telling everyone that, oh, by the way, if you have a pain, you do this. And a lot of people thought I was going mad, and some other people decided to try, and they also had the very same result. And that is what got me interested in yoga and meditation. And then my journey started in a way where everybody was saying, in terms of doctors, like, we can't believe. I went in the hospital totally in a wheelchair where I had to be completely picked up all the time. After 3.5 months, I'd come out and I was actually dancing. Okay, I mean, not enough for a performance on stage, but I did have that, the rhythm, and I could do the steps. And I'm a dancer. I've been dancing since 2.5. So for me, that was huge. So for me, it was very important to tell people that don't give up just because one doctor says you can't, or even one entire system of medicine says you can't. Look for whatever helps you. Food was another thing. And everybody was surprised that I could just give up on food so easily because I'm a foodie. I was like, yeah, if this is not good for me, I'm not going to sleep with the enemy. No, not the person. So, this whole thing about experiencing something which apparently is unique, I was dying to tell the whole world. So that I started doing from bed. I was using social media. Whoever was coming in contact with me, I was doing that. I started putting a blurb twice a year, just saying that anybody who is going through emotional pain and just wants to talk. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I'm a person who can listen to you, and I will not judge you because I've done enough in my life to not judge another person. And sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger. So I used to call that a stranger friend. So I still do it, so feel happy to come and talk to me and we'll just have a good conversation. And I was surprised that so many people actually reached out. And one of them actually said, I've been going to a therapist for so many years and you seem to have helped me in 1.5 hours compared to, and I think that's because I was free from, being a therapist. If I am a therapist, I probably wouldn't have been able to help. Then comes a point when I am like, why the hell should I go through pain every day to wear my clothes? See, I'm going through pain as an illness. Illness is natural or whatever. Like, it's a part of, the universe's way of working. Clothes are something human beings are making, right? So we don't have the right to suddenly say, you go through pain anyway. I said, I'm not doing this nonsense. So I started reaching out to other people. Hey, can you make some clothes? First, I Googled. I thought it's the obvious thing to have. It wasn't. Nobody on Google was selling anything for me. There were some things that were being sold, but that was in the US and all that. And even just the logistics of getting here would have been too expensive. So then I started reaching out to other people in India, designers and all that. I don't mean the very well-known designers, but small brands that are there. And they said, this is a great idea, but I don't think it's possible. And I was like, we are going to the moon and the Mars. And he was saying, this is not possible. so, so then that was one time I was like, okay, take it in your own hands. There's a problem, solve it. So, I mean, I thought I was going the right route by going to the experts. But I realized that probably I am the expert in it. So then I went on YouTube and I learned everything. No, not even at that point. At that point, I just got a random tailor and I said, it's going, you make this like this, like this. And he said, how is that possible? Nobody does it. I said, what is your problem? You do it. No, I'm paying you for it. So, so then I solved my problem to start with. And actually, even before that, it was my sister who played a very interesting role. It was my birthday and she said, you want to just dress up? I said, what dress up? It'll again be some weird, stupid maxi 90 and then she thought for a few minutes. So she's also a problem solver. She got me one of my skirts and she draped it around me and with a belt and with a scarf and everything. So it ended up looking like a dress with a jacket, where she didn't have to move me at all. It was the dress or the cloth that was doing its job, right? So that actually made me feel that, yeah, this is possible. So we'll do it. Even all the designers are saying no, but clearly this is not. Again, my sister is also not a designer. So this non-designer has done it. We'll do that. So once I did it, and by that time I was already talking to a lot of people who have disabilities, only because I needed to have that community. It was so new for me and my family. The doctors are not very helpful in actually guiding your lifestyle towards it, or what is happening. So I needed the community connect to know what's happening, to talk to other people going through the same thing, to have that emotional outlet. I realized this clothing thing is a problem with everyone. Then I started feeling very guilty that, if I have a solution and I keep it only to myself, that is the most selfish thing I can do. So I should then put it out there. And for me, the most obvious thing that became was, okay, then I should run a company because it has to be self sustaining. And I wanted to also move away from the charity model of thinking. Okay, oh, this is for disability, this is for the elderly care, then it has to be, hi Ram, kya ho gaya, इनको ठीक है थोड़ा पैसे दे दो. I was like, no, 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 no. It has to be far more my voice, my thing, our choices. So, that had to be done through a very normal transaction like everybody else has. So, I was still in bed by the time. I was still pinned to the bed. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And for me, it's like I very often first decide what I want to do. Then I decide the first bits of what I can do. Because it's almost impossible to figure out the entire journey. So, take one step, then figure out the next step, sort of a thing.
So, was it this idea that you had in your head? Was that keeping you busy while you were lying down on the bed? Like, were you looking forward to doing something more every day because you had this thought of, I can do something with this. I can help someone with this. I can
See,
make
there were
clothing
few
for other
things that
people easier and nicer. Hmm.
there were few things that were helping me sort of. A lot of people ask me like, what do you do throughout the day? You must be bored. I was like, have you ever been sick? Like, I have no time to be bored. I'm usually in pain. I'm sleeping all the time. My body's recovering constantly, and it was like a huge sort of a. I don't know. I don't want to call it an attack, but it was like, yeah, the body was going through something really big, so it needed a lot of sleep. So लेकिन आधा टाइम तो सोने में निकल जाता है. Then I also had to make sure that I can pay my bills. I was very clear that I want to be financially independent. And these are not fancy words. So I come from a very I don't even know where the class structure lies these days, but we come from a place where we have been taken care of. I never felt that there was poverty, but we always had to think about how much we are spending, stuff like that.
I
And
bump in. Why did you say like financially independent is a fancy word?
because a lot of people think it is a fancy thing. Oh, she has to be financially independent, though she has a lot of backup. And I'm trying to always tell people that that's not necessarily true. First, there's not a lot of backup. And second, Also, if there is a backup, unless there's a guaranteed backup for life, like, there's a trust fund for me that has, millions. That apart, you are on your own no matter how good your family is, because you don't know what's coming next. And for me, that's the whole thing. For me, it's independence that mattered. So physically, I am not independent. Okay, we get that part. Can I at least, make sure I lead my own life the way I want? So this way I want has been quite a funny, a tricky situation very often.
Actually, this way I want has been the thing that has been like leading you on for most of the time. At least that's the kind
No,
of
I was
impression,
born with the way I want.
right? Doctors can say what they want, I will do what I want. No, the disease can do whatever it wants, I will do what I want.
No,
So
in fact, even recently, so last 3 months have been very difficult for me physically. The health has suddenly taken a dip. So when people ask me, how are you doing? I said, I am okay. My disease may not be there. So, and that was very useful actually. Though I'm laughing at it right now, it was very useful because I kept telling myself, I'm not this body. This body and I are not two separate things. The body is mine. I am not the body's. The mind is mine. I'm not the mind's. The emotions are mine. I'm not the emotions. So a lot of people saying, मैं तो अपनी मर्जी का करता हूँ. I was like, you're being a slave to your marzi. How is that helpful? My mood, my emotions, my mind should be mine. I should run it, including my body. I should run it. Any of them try and tell me that it has gotten a power over me, then I'm lost.
Dude, because of this way of thinking, do you ever feel uh, that you are not? Do you like always being in control? Like because of
No,
what you said? Because yeah, I'm sure if
exactly.
you want, right? If you want, like my mind, my body, you need to be in control of these things, right? Mentally, physically. So that automatically makes you a person who likes to control things and the environment around them, and
Yeah.
so that.
So exactly the opposite happened. When I was not having this mindset, even unknowingly, I was pretty much a person who, sort of a control freak. When I say that, what I mean is I would let other people do their thing. But only when I felt sick and I started, looking at the subtext in my behavior, I realized I wanted to control. And then I changed my mindset to what I just told you. Okay, I am me, my body is different, my mind is different, my emotions are different. They're all mine, but they're different. So my body is like let's say a car. So if the car का टायर पंचर हो जाता है, हम थोड़ी बोलते हैं कि मेरा टायर पंचर हो गया. My tires and my car's tires are different. So having that mindset, I suddenly realized I can completely let go. I have no interest in controlling anything. I cannot say I've reached a Zen moment. Of course, there are times when I, come up and I'm like, oh, why is this not happening? Yeah, what the hell? But in most of the times, I just take a deep breath. I'm like, again, that question, have I done everything that I could do? If the answer is yes, chhodo. Forget about it. You have done your bit. Whatever happens, happens. If you haven't done it, then list it out. Figure out which ones you have to do first, second, third. Focus on what you can do instead of cribbing about it.
So then by this time you had an idea of what your clothing brand could be.
Yeah.
You want to talk about how you started building it on, like you caught that first tailor who wasn't very happy with what you were telling him. Then
None of the tailors even
you
till
kind of
date want to
convince
kill
other
me.
people to do it.
Till today, any of the tailors I've worked with, they almost wanted to kill me because of the cuts and the. So my first job when I work with anyone, be it the tailors or even the factory managers, my job is to help them unlearn. I spent at least a week helping them unlearn. It was like, I know this is how you do things, and it is great, but this is not how you will do it for me. And very often, what I try and do is I try and meet them physically as much as possible. And I try and show them, see, if I'm trying to wear this, it's not helping. But if I do this, it will help. So, when they see the reason behind the craziness, when they just don't think, oh, she's mad, when they figure out there's a method to the madness, they become your sort of They become your teammates. And over time, some people haven't been able to, and then they don't work with me, which is fine. But others have also come up with even more ideas like, oh, you are saying this will be helpful, but I think if you do that, it'll be even more helpful. So, I have also taken that in. So, even people who were completely against doing anything different, now they started thinking with.
So now you've gotten your band of people together, people who think like you and all that. At what time did you say that you wanna, like now's the right time for me to set up a site? I need to start selling it to other people.
I did not think through all these things.
Because
I when I watch this Shark Tank and stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, this is so systematic. People, I should have been a little bit more like that. A lot of the things that's happened. So I started the thing just 2 months before the pandemic hit, and then everything almost just happened. And while the pandemic was really bad for all of us, including me, it affected my health also in a bad way. It was also a boon because suddenly when I am not able to reach out to people and not able to get my, I mean, I was one entrepreneur who couldn't even get her raw materials properly because of all these issues. I couldn't reach, everything had steps, nothing had ramp, obviously. No, and I've been trying to call people and say, can you at least show me a picture? I can buy it. I'll send somebody, but I need to only see what I'm buying. नहीं मैडम आप आ जाओ देख लेंगे. Okay. So what happened after that with this pandemic is that everybody started figuring out WhatsApp is a method of working, Zoom is a method of working, and I was like, अभी आए उठ पहाड़ के नीचे चलो काम करते हैं. So people who would not even pick my call or something, they started on their own messaging me. We have these pictures. Can you choose a fabric? Which is good. Yeah. I think that shift of mindset was required. Not only in this case, I think people started also understanding that alone nobody can really do anything. We are, as human beings, supposed to be a community, and we should move as a community. So this whole I and me is not particularly useful. I'm not saying everybody, again, it's not like the entire world has suddenly become very yogic, but I think it's a step towards it. For me, the pandemic is just that. I know it's a horrible thing, but I almost have an OCD of finding the silver lining. So for me, the silver lining in the pandemic is that, people have started realizing how important a neighborhood is, where you are talking to other people, human beings, and not robots, right? Even when ChatGPT is taking over the world, one has to reach out to another human being. I'm still very hopeful about what I call as NI, natural intelligence versus artificial intelligence. So a lot of those things happened. I started picking up orders one by one through Facebook and stuff like that. And then slowly now I realized, okay, I'm ready to push it out the way because I wanted that ease of buying also. For me, just going to a shop or even on Myntra and all, I mean, like an online store, is difficult because they don't have filters where I can just, filter out how this. I have to go through some 10,000 pieces to see which one is vaguely, accessible for me or easy for me. So then I said, okay, we have to go to the website mode because I want to give that ease of buying. So that's what we're developing right now. And there's some lot of exciting things coming up actually. There'll be ease of measuring you without you moving. All of that just coming up.
before we talk about the things that are coming up, now you want to tell me or tell our listeners the what is Zyenika actually about? Like we all know it's a fashion brand, but what is it?
Right.
Like what are the
Uh,
kind of clothes that you make, and how are you guys different?
right. So Zyenika is a place where one can easily, safely belong. Am I still there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry. I'll repeat that, I guess. Zeneca is a space where people can easily belong. They feel comfortable, they feel safe. If you notice, I did not use. Shall I re-log in back? Because for me it's frozen. Can you even hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you perfectly.
Okay, I'll continue.
You can continue.
Riverside is not responding. Okay,
It's working. It's
sorry,
working.
it's working now. I'll just start again.
Yeah. Now you disappeared. I was just messaging you.
No, it kept giving me that warning and then it just logged out
Acha.
itself.
You were at. So I'll start again.
Zen.
I'll ask the question again. You want to tell us what Zyenika Fashions is actually all about? One, what does the name mean? Because I couldn't really figure it out. And what kind of clothes you guys make? Like, talk a bit about that.
Right. So when I started Zyenika and now that I'm building it, my focus is just to make a space where everybody feels safe and feels like they belong here. They feel happy. Happiness is kind of important. Though I don't think everybody should be happy 100% of the time. So I think that's an illness if you're happy 100% of the time. But yeah, we all a joyful space, a space where you are feeling comfortable, you're feeling safe. Feeling safe is very important because most of us don't feel safe in most spaces. We feel insecure, we feel probably people are going to look down upon us. Our confidence gets hit. And when I say this, it's not just for the customers, it's also for the people who are working with me. So do they feel comfortable? Do they feel that they have the space where they can put an opinion in front of me? Um, I have had times with some of my interns also who are just probably a few months in the thing, and they would say, I don't agree with you. But I'm happy that they're able to say that to me. And I always make sure that whoever is, if I ask someone to do something, the person is convinced of doing it. They're not doing it because boss ne bola. And so that space is important. And we try more and more to have the supply and the back end having more and more people who are with disabilities, who are women from disadvantaged communities. Again, because we want them to thrive. Now, I very strongly believe that I cannot empower anybody else. That is too much of a godlike thinking, which I don't have. However, what I can do is take away some of the obstacles or maybe create a space which is a little easier. So if I cannot help you open your heart and speak to me, but at least what I can do is I can smile and I can just say that, hey, how was your day? Then it's up to you, your potential, how much you're opening, how much you're not opening. But for me, I can create a certain environment that is in my power. And I want to do that. So Zyenika is just creating that environment. How do we do that? We took a very simple thing, which was a pain in my life, clothes. And it is a roti kapda makan, so it's the second most important thing. So now clothes do a lot of interesting things that we never think about. We either think fashion and ramp, page 3, or we are like, acha kapde hi to hai. But what happens is, even subconsciously, because we have been brought up with clothes from day zero. So subconsciously, we always dress to the occasion. We always dress to our mood. We always pick up a color that is in accordance to our mood, or if we are conscious, we want to show we are peppy, we wear a bit of a red, we wear a bit of a something, right? So that means you are expressing yourself through your clothes. It's a method of self-expression. Whenever you enter any space, any room, people, even if they don't want to judge you, they immediately form an opinion about you through your clothes. So your clothes speak on your behalf before you have gotten a chance to open your mouth. And I wanted to make sure that this choice is available to a lot of people. Not only people who are with disabilities, or not only for people who are elderly. That's my primary focus. So yeah, I was just saying that even when I didn't have a physical problem, any health issue, and I was a martial artist, I did not this kind of yoga. For me, I mean, people just think yoga is moving your hands and legs. It's not. So yeah, and before I really learned the true meaning of yoga, but I'm still exercising. I was doing 100 push-ups a day. I was a dancer, Bharatanatyam dancer since I was 2.5. So I was a very flexible body. But I realized I was very conscious of my body. I was very shy. I would wear oversized clothes because I didn't want to show myself. I never thought I was fitting in. I was always thinking I was too fat or something. So there was, I mean, for me, this illness has been, and I say this all the time now, it's been a boon. It's been a blessing and not even in disguise. So, because it has opened me up, right? It has reduced my physical part, but it's made me who I am. And I think I like myself better now than I was a few years back. So, what I realize is a lot of people go through the same thing like I did earlier, where we're just trying to hide, we're trying to fit in. As a Bharatanatyam dancer, my waist is usually a little broader. That doesn't go with the hourglass shape that most clothes are designed for women. And interestingly, then I went to YouTube and whatever other places there is to learn about design and everything. One very important thing I used for myself, I have the skill of being a very quick study. तो सामने जो मिला important है, read about it, study it, figure it out. Don't have to. Everybody said, oh, earlier, oh, you're such a generalist, you're such a generalist. That being a generalist was my biggest strength as a startup owner and a founder. Right? So I was like, jo nahi milta, chalo, let's figure it out. I will not become the best in it. I'll at least become good and average. Chalega. Then we will get the best people in. We will not run at an average, but at least to know who to get, I should know something. And very often we don't know how much we don't know. So anyway, coming back to the clothes, I realized a lot of us have these body issues, physical issues. So our designs, like I said at the very beginning, clothes are meant to fit you. You are not meant to fit them. And this change in mind shift is paramount to me. And I hope all my customers, and even if they're not buying from me, I hope people get this message. Buy clothes for yourself. Don't have to trim down for the clothes, or don't have to fatten up for the clothes. Don't have to do anything for your clothes. If you want to be fit and you do something, of course do it. And believe me, it's easier said than done. Even now, sometimes I'm like, oh, if I wear it and if this shows, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But it takes me that little moment of, thinking. It's not easy, but it's a very powerful space too. And it's worth it. I want to give that space to other people through the designs. And especially when we work for people with disabilities and the elderly, your hands are not moving. We make sure the clothes wrap around you and still look like a shirt. So it all looks very glamorous, but making sure if there's a certain body part that doesn't move, we don't force it to move. We don't cause it pain. Simple things like using Velcro instead of button, but still having show buttons, stuff like that. That's the simplest example that I can give. We have shoulder open stuff. We have back open stuff. We have hidden pockets for urinary bags. Because just because you have a urinary problem doesn't mean you don't want to go out shopping. Which is what happens, right? And when I was sick, everyone told me that itna to hai na, good for you. And I'm always like, but I want that. I don't want this. I mean, good that you're giving me this and I'm grateful for it, but I want that. So the objective is Zyenika's objective is to enhance the quality of life. Be it for the customers, be it for the suppliers, be it for the employees, be it for the founder. enhance the quality of life.
It actually sounds like Zyenika is a lot more thoughtful fashion, right? It actually thinks about people, and not, I'm just saying, not about just people who have a disability, but like overall. Like I
Yeah,
remember seeing a couple of your designs on your site or on your Insta page, which a simple thing is a zip. Like I know I struggle with zips, and you guys had such a simple solution where it makes it so easy to bring the zip
yeah, it's a one finger thing, which is
one
one
finger.
finger, you can zip it up, zip
Yeah.
it down.
So like I
Ah,
struggle, like I need two hands. And that was what it made it look so simple. There was another thing that had magnetic buttons. It looked like buttons with just like
yeah,
everything was so thoughtfully made from the point of view of who the other people are going to be using it. Right. So I thought that was really, really like
absolutely.
thoughtful and really genuine, as I mean, coming from you and you taking it to the brand and then taking it to everyone, it brought a lot more empathy into fashion.
To be honest, that was also one of the things that we wanted. Everything doesn't have to be cutthroat. Everything doesn't have to be, a race. We need to pause, and that's something I've learned from my own life. And I want to. Zenica is. I know everybody says it. No, it's your baby. Believe me, it's not. Because when you have a baby, you have a crash. You have grandmothers taking care of it. Your grandfathers taking care of it. When you have a startup, you have nobody. Not because they don't want to, but they don't know what to do with it. You are with it 24/7. This is Amitabh Bachchan dialogue. Now, I eat English, I sleep English. So for me, it's like I eat Zenica, I drink Zenica, I sleep Zenica, I wake up and say Zenica. But whenever I say Zenica, you ask me for the meaning of it. It actually doesn't have a meaning. It's just a phonetic word. But it was inspired by a word called Shainika. And I was told that it is a Sanskrit name for a female hawk. I've tried doing some research. Some sites say yes, it is. Some sites also put in some Persian words and say something else. But for the female hawk, there are two characteristics. One is perseverance and one is elegance. It's known for these two things. So while I'm not a fan of a hawk per se, but I'm a big fan of perseverance and a huge fan of elegance. And when I say, your actions matter, your reactions matter rather. That something is happening to you, how do you react to it? It is actually defined by the word elegance. Are you being elegant in your reaction? कोई आगे वाला गाड़ी दे रहा है. That is that person's problem. Am I elegantly handling it? So all of these values come together when I, bring something up. And for me, I'm honestly bringing it up. Like I said, if you're a mother and if you're lucky enough to have a supportive family or a creche or something, at least you can take 2 hours break. I don't have that break. I'm not complaining, but that's a life of any startup founder. And I chose it. So as long as I know I have chosen it, I'm fine with it.
So where do you see?
So
Sorry, you were saying.
no, just to add one more sentence to it is that a lot of people have asked me about competition. A lot of people have asked me about one of the things I did very early on is like whoever is working in the space, and I continue to do that domestically or abroad. Domestically, there are not too many players, but anybody who's even interested, I pick up the call and I talk to them, and the idea is not to, okay, we will do this tomorrow, but to know them as human beings. And we are now very often friends across the globe because I don't believe in the whole point of a competition. The only person or the only thing Zyenika is competing it is with itself. Is it being better than what it was yesterday? But for everyone else, it's a collaboration. And I hope we do a lot more collaborative work also. But even if we don't, even if we spend an hour talking with the other person saying, "Oh my God, this is so frustrating," only I can understand that frustration, and only she can understand my frustration. So even that's worth it, right? So we have to move away from the thinking of competing and cutthroat and just be there and numbers on the balance sheet. Yeah, they are all important, but what's more important is that you pause. Human beings, this earth, that's it.
What this is my last question, and like it flowed so beautifully into what you said. Where do you see Zenica in the next 6 months, 12 months? Let me finish. I know you said there is no like competition is there, competition is not there. I don't need to be in a race. I need to do these things. You know, I will do things on my own pace. I need to enjoy my journey. So keeping all these things in mind, how I mean, where do you see Zyenika as a brand reaching? Do you have like kind of short-term goals for it or long-term goals for it, or do you even think of that, or it will go as it goes? Because that's another different way of
No, of
thinking.
course, we think about it. I think about it, I plan for it, I work towards it. And then if I've done my 100%, I just let nature take it. There's only so much I can do. There's only so much anybody can do. So, but promise to pray for me and Zyenika, and I'll tell you what to pray for. See, there are two or three things. Yes, we have certain numbers in our mind in terms of customers that we want to serve, in terms of numbers that we want to sell, in terms of the number of employees we want to have. Because everything that we are doing is also something that's going to help me put the dream forward. One more person being in the space, a safe, happy, joyful space. And I'm not doing it for other people. That's the other thing. You actually had been saying that, and I should correct it. I'm not doing it for other people. I'm doing it for myself. It's a win-win situation, so that's good. But I'm not an altruistic person who's just doing everything for someone else. No, I want a space like that. I want a community like that, where nobody is constantly being judged and somebody is helping in. So I'm creating that. And till now, there have been other brands who have come, and some of them have been even looked at as a very direct competitor. And I said, I'll help you with your designs. I'll help you with the communication. I'll help you with whatever is required. There can be commercial terms and can be non-commercial terms, whatever terms, right? Because we cannot do this alone. Because you know what I'm talking about, as you said, thoughtful fashion. Not just thoughtful fashion, forget the word fashion, thoughtful businesses. It needs a mind shift. Mind shift doesn't happen with just me screaming at the top of my voice. And if I cannot be thoughtful and giving, because I want a space where it's giving, right? If I cannot be giving, I cannot expect it to happen. So I just cannot say, oh, I'll give. But when it comes to it, oh, no, it's my design, you cannot. And to create, it has to be a chain reaction. So for a chain reaction, you need multiple players. So if tomorrow you know somebody who's willing to do it, I'm like, happy, let's do it together. So that's the other part. A little long term, as I said, we are coming up with ideas where nobody has thought about fashion and technology coming together, except for, textile engineering and stuff like that. But I want to use the technology space as much as possible. You have to have that going, working on that. And I'm pretty sure people will see that happening. And will contribute, will enjoy. Yeah. So it's all about enabling spaces. I am very clear I don't empower anybody, but I try to enable spaces. उसमें जिसको जो करना है, whatever the person's potential.
I think on that enjoyable note, we will end our conversation. I'm so happy to have you. I'm so happy we persevered for so long and made this interview happen. We've been not talking, we've tried also once before. So I'm so happy.
We've tried it 4 to 5 times. Yeah. I mean, what? This is real, the hawk syndrome happening, real perseverance.
No, I'm so glad we finally got a chance to do this. And it's everything.
You must tell your audience we took 15 months for this to
Actually,
actualize.
no, it took quite some time here.
Yeah. People talk about manifestations and they get frustrated कि क्यों नहीं हो रहा है. हम लोग को we took 15 months to manifest this one podcast.
So cool, yeah. Thank you so much. And we will definitely keep in touch. And all the best to you. And all the best to Zyenika. And
Thank you.
I keep,
Keep us in your
I
prayers,
will
in
for
your
sure.
wishes.
I will. Thank you. Say hi to everyone at home. And I
Thank
hope you keep doing the zoom out to space thing even more. That's such a nice concept. It's like
you so much.
looking at things from a third person, but just like zooming out from space and doing it.
Yeah, you're still you, but it's just really funny.
It
It's
is.
really funny. Try it sometimes and let
I
me know
will.
how it works.
I will. I'll try the. I do the. I do the like stepping back and look at it from a third person, but not like zooming out to space and doing. But I will try the space thing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You will find small, tiny people doing random things, and it's just hilarious.
I will. Yeah. Thank you so much. Chalo. Bye bye.